Okay, good evening, everyone. Good to see you all for our November 18th meeting, our meeting before the Thanksgiving holiday. So great to have everyone here. We're going to start with our work session agenda. So I'll ask our city clerk to do the roll call.
Mayor Garitano,
Here.
Councilmember Bros,
Here.
Councilmember Edens,
Here.
Councilmember Oddberg,
Here.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Here.
Councilmember Marshall,
Present.
Councilmember Jaxi, Councilmember Hopper, Councilmember Galani,
Yes.
Councilmember Preston,
Here.
Councilmember Mabry,
Here.
Councilmember Nyan,
Here.
Councilmember Farmer,
Here.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Here.
Councilmember Rambo,
Here.
Councilmember Crayons,
Here.
Councilmember Albers.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, we're missing a microphone over here, so I don't know how we're gonna, we may have some difficulty sharing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we just shift everybody's mic?
All right, just bear with us if you are watching on Zoom. To set up a microphone.
Okay, we're, all right, I guess.
You're all good now?
Sort of.
Okay, we're on the road to figure it.
We're at 6.
I don't plan on saying much today.
All right. Thank you all. Let's go into, I don't have any mayor's comments or announcements for the work session, so we'll move into for information. This is a good opportunity. If you have any questions or seeking clarification on any of the for information items, we'll open it up to see if anyone has anything. Councilmember Evans.
I actually have a question for Mr. Travis, and it was just about the road salt, which will show up later, which I support the bidding and I understand the urgency for. My question was because we were in the meeting with the Hamilton Car Watershed Project, and one of the questions we were asked was what type of salt we use. And I cannot remember if magnesium chloride was one of the chemicals that they were concerned about. Do you remember? Or Rick, do you remember from sitting on that meeting? I couldn't, I forgot to write it down.
I don't recall, but we recorded the meeting, so I
Yeah,
can go back and look.
Director Brown.
I'd be glad to talk about that. So the overall concern is the amount of salt that is used in the watershed, not so much the type. And so with the, one of the things with that purchase is the idea is to use less salt overall. And that's where MoDOT's gone with the enhanced treated salt, with the idea that the goal is to try to use less salt, which is better for the environment. Not so much concerned over the type of salt, but using less overall.
thank you for explaining that. I just remember we were asked specifically and I couldn't answer the question. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question or comment under for information? Right, we also can come back to this if we have any questions or if there's any items on the main agenda. We could certainly entertain that. So we'll jump into for action. The first item for the city council is the Latitude North 38. And Director Vunich is coming up to speak there. I hope you're doing okay. I see you kind of wobbling a little bit.
I've got a bit of a wobble tonight, so
Okay.
my apologies. Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, you may recall at our last meeting, the members of City Council reached a conclusion, and that conclusion is to develop a draft cooperative agreement with the development entity for Latitude North 38. That cooperation or cooperative agreement was formalized about midweek of this past week, meaning that the attorney representing the development entity, as well as most of us at City Hall, had limited time to review it. Based upon that and the direction in terms of creating the agreement from City Council, there has not been discussion at the level of detail necessary to be prepared to discuss it tonight with City Council and provide it to you for your consideration. So tonight, the department is just respectfully requesting a postponement of this matter until the December 9th meeting, when we will be prepared to discuss the cooperative agreement and answer any questions regarding it as well.
Okay, thank you, Director Vunich. So there's a request for a motion for postponement, but Councilmember Farmer.
I was just gonna make the motion.
Okay, so Councilmember Farmer, is that accurate? You'll make a motion to postpone this matter to the December, did you say 9th meeting, Director Vunich? Is that?
Yes,
State,
that-
yep. Okay, so we have that motion on the floor, Councilmember Dodwell. All right, seconded by Councilmember Dodwell. So we do have the motion on the floor for postponement. Anybody have any any question or comment related to that? Councilmember Kranz.
Just talked to Joe earlier about this, that I'd like to know the total amount that they are refusing to pay on their portion of Main Street. The numbers.
Certainly, and City Administrator Lee had a discussion with the department and also asked for a similar item, kind of taking all of the numbers and the words that are part of all the emails that have gone back and forth and creating something that's simple and easy to understand. Mr. Newberry and I met today with Mr. Levinson and Mr. Bosworth. We gave them a simple table and asked them to look at it, address anything that they thought was incorrect, and certainly add anything that they thought was necessary. So we basically are trying to get it down to one sheet that'll be provided to you along with the cooperation or cooperative agreement.
And one more, Main Street crossing is right next door to Latitude 38. And I'm assuming that Main Street crossing developer paid for their portion of the Main Street. And I'd like to know how much they paid. Can you get that?
Certainly we'll try. We escrowed for subdivision and development regulation purposes the amount of Main Street construction. And then we received, as part of that letter of credit for construction purposes, that amount plus more. So I think I have something that we can use. I'll
Okay.
certainly double check it against anything that.
I just want to know how much they paid, the cash out of their pocket.
I'll certainly get that.
All right,
for you.
thank you.
Okay, so we have that motion on the floor and I don't see any other hands up, so we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone opposed or abstain? Okay, that motion passes. Thank you for that, Director Vunich. So we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Planning and Parks Committee, the master plan appointments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, if you're not aware, certain you are, we're approaching the 10-year anniversary of the master plan update, which was concluded in 2016. Under state statute, as well as the city's charter, every 10 years, there is a mandatory review of the document. In 2006 and in 2016, a certain process was used to orchestrate that update, and it was led by a citizens group. That citizens group in 2016 was approximately 23 members. That group of volunteers actually spent a great deal of time over the course of that year going through each of the goals, objectives, and policies, as well as the land use component, and ultimately created a document that I think really kind of had the pulse of the city relative to its residents, business owners, and et cetera. The Planning and Parks Committee was asked at a meeting in October, replicating that citizens volunteer group. That meaning we would do in 2025 what we did in 2015 relative to the process. The Planning and Parks Committee recommended that we proceed forward in that direction. That report was presented to City Council and City Council endorsed it. At the last meeting of the Planning and Parks Committee, they revised that relative to the citizen volunteer group, that 8 positions have been filled already. Those are the 8 citizen members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. The mayor has a standing position on the group. And then there is a need for 8 citizens, 1 from each ward and 2 at large to be nominated by the respective ward members and then presented to the mayor for consideration and ultimately nomination and then confirmation by city council. So if you're doing the math, we have the 8 citizen members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, 10 residents, 8, 1 from each ward and 2 at large. That creates 16 plus the mayor is 17. Excuse me, 19. And then we have 2 city council liaisons and then also 2 business interests. The city council liaisons, obviously, if one of you are interested, you'll need to contact Mayor Garitano, and then Mayor Garitano will present the business interest for the consideration of city council. So tonight, the department is advising you of the process as recommended by the committee for the fulfillment of the 23 positions. And also from the standpoint of logistics of the process, the committee recommended a schedule. The group will meet once a month on Tuesdays, generally the first or second Tuesday of the month, if possible. And then from there, we hope to have a draft document in September. Take that draft document out for public input during October and part of November, and have the draft document approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission and adopted sometime in December or early January, and then to City Council sometime in January to February. So the process is completed by February of 2026, exactly 10 years after the last update was endorsed and ratified by City Council and adopted by the Planning and Zoning Commission. So tonight, the committee via the department is respectfully requesting a motion second to endorse the fulfillment of the positions and the schedule that's been presented to you tonight. Thank you.
Okay, for the director's request, is there a motion or?
The meeting starting in January?
Yes, we anticipate having the first meeting January 7th. And that first meeting is kind of a get to know each other. We go over the master plan, the process, and answer questions. It's not necessarily a roll up your sleeve meeting, but we'll use our time effectively.
Okay, Councilmember Ottenberg.
Director Vunish, could you please refresh my memory on the appropriate procedure for getting someone to represent an individual ward on this committee?
Preferably the 2 ward representatives would collaborate on a list of names. If there's 1 or 2 or 3 names, provide those to the mayor, and then the mayor will make the nomination, and then city council will confirm the slate of candidates.
Perfect. Thank you.
Is there anyone that wishes to make the motion? Councilmember Farmer, and then the second Councilmember McCutcheon? Okay, so the motion is, just for clarity's sake, if you could.
Endorse the process for filling the 23 positions and then agreeing to the schedule as presented by the committee.
Okay, so with that, I don't see any other hands up, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? All right, that motion passes. We'll
Thank
move
you.
on to 2025 city recreation schedule.
Again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, the Planning and Parks Committee is presenting to you tonight for your consideration and action the proposed recreation schedule for 2025. The schedule starts off in the latter part of January with our famous Frozen Feet 10-mile run, and many of the remaining events that have been held for a number of years and been very successful and well received by not only the local community, but others from across the region. Key amongst all of the events, again, is the direction from the city council to make them revenue neutral as much as possible, if not a revenue plus for the city. And over the past few years, the Department of Planning has instituted fee increases across those events where applicable. And if not, due to the nature of the event where a fee cannot be assessed, we certainly look at ways to reduce costs and save the taxpayers money. Again, many of these events should be familiar to you. I know just from this past year, many of you attend them, participate in them, and certainly support them in many different ways. So tonight, the Planning and Parks Committee via the Department of Planning is respectfully requesting endorsement of the recreation schedule as presented. Thank you.
I actually had a question about it. Yeah, so Joe, I was looking at this and I seem to forget every year like how many things we do. It's a lot. And I appreciate how much work you guys have put into trying to get these events as neutral as they possibly can. I think we do a great job of using the money that we put towards these events in a very good way. I am, however, a little curious. I don't know if I'm concerned yet because I don't know the answer, but I do know I'm looking at this and the events that I go to, I do see a lot of city staff members there. So I'm a little curious about like, I guess what I would maybe call the soft costs of you guys being setting the stuff up and breaking it down and all that kind of stuff. And I'm just wondering if we look at some of these items, and I'm even seeing a couple, I think maybe this Veterans Day thing is semi-new, right? Didn't we just kind of start this year maybe? So I've always kind of been a fan of maybe doing less things, but do the things that we do better. And also trying to save, you guys as a city staff a little bit of time and energy, because like, especially in October, that's a lot of things happening all in a row. So I don't know. I'm not on Parks and Planning anymore. I don't know if you guys have gone through like some kind of an audit of what we gauge is like what a successful event is, or how much time it's kind of taking to put it all together and stuff. Because time to me is the most valuable commodity you guys have, and we spread you pretty thin. So I'd like to try to get you as much time back to do things in a better way than, have a bunch of extra events, that kind of a thing.
Well, first and foremost, thank you for your consideration and noting that sometimes city staff is stretched pretty thin, and October is probably the best month as an example of that. I would first note that the presentation of the schedule does not necessarily have to be acted upon tonight. We can wait till the December meeting, and if you want more information on some of the soft costs, meaning those staff members that are there that are either receiving overtime pay or compensatory time, we can certainly provide that. I will tell you that generally speaking, it's a 50-50. Half of the staff is salaried, and so we're there regardless if it's 12 hours into the day or just 8. And then the other obviously is hourly and receiving something for the additional time on that particular day and that event. But we can probably dig a little deeper if you'd like before you're asked to endorse the schedule for the upcoming year.
Yeah, I mean, I would just love for myself anyways to have just kind of a better understanding of how, I don't know, I have no idea how long it takes to put a foot race, hike, whatever we call them, together for the staff. And so, I also don't know, I know everybody, I go to the concerts, everybody loves them, but, are we better served having 3 concerts instead of 4 and making those 3 better and not risking the random, we'd guess, but the random one early in the year that tends to have a problem or whatever. I don't have any problem with the amount of money, overtime and things like that. I think we're well within our parameters to do that. It's more, the time it takes throughout the day to get these things put together, and then just the inevitable burnout that, I know when I've done events at jobs in the past, like it all seems great until you're there and then you got to clean up and then you got to go back to work on Monday. Like it's, so that would just help me understand if we're looking at this in the right way, and also understanding how we define what a successful event is. I mean, I think it's easy to say it's an amount of money, but none of these things are really designed to make money. So if it's a matter of like the things I hear about are the back to school thing and Celebrate Wildwood and the tree lighting, I'm sure everybody hears about other stuff. I don't know what we define a successful event as. That would help too.
Well, I think the Department of Planning and Parks has a criteria, and we can certainly provide that to you. And then also, I think the Planning and Parks Committee has a criteria because, again, they're the first line of defense relative to ensuring that the taxpayers' money is spent wisely. And then on the flip side, that as city staff, we're not overextending ourselves and not doing things that are really required of us relative to planning, zoning, subdivision, et cetera.
We're just having some time to come up for air. That's okay too.
So again, if the majority of city council would like a little bit more of that onion peeled off, we'd be glad to do that and be prepared on December 9th for the discussion.
A number of these. Go to the with the farmers market.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And the benefit of the Village Green is we'll be providing our own electric. And generally speaking, for the larger events, when we rent the generators, each of those are fairly expensive. They can range anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500. So we'll be saving money there. Now, there is a cost of electricity, but it won't be to the scale of what a generator costs us for a single day.
Okay, is there a motion? Councilmember Rambo.
Yeah, I would like to make that motion, but I want to ensure that it also includes the idea that we're going to kick this back to planning and parks and work over that process. To Joe's point, I completely agree with everything he said. I think maybe we can do a little bit better at being respectful of the staff's time. So that's my motion, is this passed back to the Planning and Parks Committee if it wasn't already going to do so anyway.
Well, there's a particular issue with that. The Planning and Parks Committee meets after the December 9th City Council meeting. And we are already in the process of accepting applications for the Frozen Feet 10-mile run. So I guess my request would be that at December 9th, at least, we'd be able to talk about the Frozen Feet run, then go to committee, and then this would be taken up in January.
So instead of imposing my own wishes in the process, I would suggest then that you bring back the data that you have. We can look at it, make an assessment, and then the Planning and Parks Committee ought to look at this manpower and staffing impact issue.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's my motion.
Okay, let me make sure we got that clarity here. So, because what you initially said though wouldn't work with the calendar.
Right, so I modified it, but I didn't do it.
Okay,
I wasn't clear, I guess. I'm sorry.
So let's make sure we get it for the record clear. Do you or Director Vunich want to restate what that motion should say, just for the city clerk's benefit?
I believe the motion was to prepare the information that has been requested by Councilmember Farmer and now Dr. Rambo, have that available on December 9th. And then thereafter, at the next Planning and Parks Committee, have a discussion on that information and look a little deeper and then come back in January with some suggestions.
That's it.
Okay, great. Second on that motion, Councilmember Dodwell.
So that we can assess the number of volunteers that we needed some of these events, because groups that are looking for volunteer now. We also have citizen. Volunteer to some of these other events to help it. Set this.
Okay.
All right, well, then we have that second on the floor. I do not see any other hands up, so. Now he made the
Yeah, it was my
motion,
motion.
you're seconding it. Okay, with that then, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone oppose or abstain? All right, that motion passes. We move on to C on our agenda, Planning and Zoning Commission. So Director Vunich, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, at the Planning and Zoning Commission's meeting on October 7th, it was presented a request from the homeowners association at Main Street Crossing to consider under the city council policy, a recommendation, a favorable recommendation to allow their alleys to, which are private, to become public. The city council had created a policy relative to this type of request. And subsequent to that policy, as you know, the Manors at the Meadows of Cherry Hills has been the first successful applicant. The Planning and Zoning Commission did consider the request, and per the analysis that's part of the report that's been prepared for consideration tonight, did recommend that the city council favorably consider the acceptance of these alleys that are private at this time to be public in the future. The principal rationales are contained in the analysis relate to the policy itself as established by city council, the master plan, specifically the town center plan, which adopted the recommendation for alleys in town center that are private to be able to be considered to be public. The state statute, which allows this consideration. And finally, the practicality, meaning that these alleys are relatively new. The alleys have been through a rigorous escrow inspection process. They have all been resurfaced and the final top coat placed. And so they are in very good condition. And from the perspective, I believe, of the Department of Public Works and the Department of Planning, will be a long-term asset versus an immediate cost. And so tonight, the Planning and Zoning Commission is respectfully requesting a favorable action relative to their recommendation. Again, the recommendation is that the private alleys and Main Street Crossing be considered for public purposes. Thank you.
Right, with that, is there a motion, or do we have questions? Councilmember Godwin.
I have a question and then I'll make the motion. What do we estimate the annual cost for maintenance on all of this is going to be?
I would
This
defer
may be
to
for
our,
better for.
I would defer to our
Director.
expert on that, and that is Mr. Brown.
That makes sense.
Councilmember, I believe, when I ran the numbers, it was approximately a little over $5,000 a year is the approximate cost that we estimated.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we understand our annual budget for street repair is going to have to include these as well.
Do you wish to make that motion? Okay, so you make a motion, and do we have a second? Councilmember Farmer.
I'll make a second. I just had another question.
Sure.
Too. So I don't know, Joe, if this is you or Rick, but because these are alleys, I assume we treat them the same as regular streets, like people can walk down them and do stuff and we plow them and things?
Yes. Or public purposes truly mean the public, regardless if you live in the subdivision or not. You can use the alley to drive on, walk on, ride on. And yes, we do provide snow and ice removal and general maintenance over the course of any year.
All right. I'm happy to second it.
So we have that motion on the floor. Councilmember Mabry.
Generally speaking, at least from the Department of Planning's review, and I don't necessarily want to spurge another subdivision, but there was a subdivision that did apply. And they were one of the first new urbanism developments to occur with alleys and garages accessing the alleys at the rear of their lots. And they did little maintenance. And from the perspective of that, their alleys were not in necessarily good shape when the proposal was submitted to city council for consideration. So I mention that because I think with public maintenance of the alleys, we'll ensure that they maintain a minimum level of functionality. And that functionality equates to better access for police, fire, EMS, if that's the area they need to get to. And it also maintains property values better. And property value is a positive from all the service providers' perspective when assessments are made and taxes are paid. So there may not be necessarily a direct benefit to Wildwood other than we gain public access for whoever wishes. But there are, I believe, some benefits beyond just the city of Wildwood.
Thank you. That's the perfect. You got the mic. And you kept up the quality.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, so seeing that we have a motion on the floor and I don't see any other hands up. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? The motion passes. Next item is an executive closed session. So we'll need a motion to go into closed session according to RSMO 610.021 subsection 2. Is there someone that wishes to make that motion? Councilmember Ottenberg. Okay, and second by Councilmember Edens. So with that motion, we do have to do a roll call and we'll be able to go into closed session.
Councilmember Rose,
Yes.
Councilmember Edens, Councilmember Ottenberg,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall,
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi,
Yes.
Councilmember Galani, Councilmember Preston,
Yes.
Councilmember Mabry,
Yes.
Councilmember Nyan, Councilmember Farmer,
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Yes.
Councilmember Rainbow,
Yes.
Councilmember Crayons,
Yes.
Councilmember Albers.
Okay, that motion passes. So I'll ask for everyone to be able to go into the community room for closed session. Thank you. We will return. We do have just one more item under the work session. So we will move into the miscellaneous receive and file, and then after that, we'll adjourn work session and begin our main meeting. Director Vunich.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, the item is for receipt and filing. It relates to an action of the Planning and Zoning Commission relative to a tandem request, a rezoning and overlay district on a 3-acre property located on the east side of Etherton Road, just north of Manchester Road. The development entity was seeking 9 lots on the 3 acres. Ultimately, the department issued a report reducing that number to 7. And prior to taking an action on the department's recommendation, the Planning and Zoning Commission respectfully requested that a preliminary development plan be provided showing the 7 lots versus the 9 lots. Ultimately, as shown on the screen, thanks to Mr. Newberry, the developer came back with a 3-lot proposal. And so the Planning and Zoning Commission withdrew the request without prejudice, and the 3-lot proposal on the 3 acres will be before the Planning and Zoning Commission on December 2nd. If there are any questions or comments, department would be glad to try to answer them at this time.
Okay, do we have any questions or comments related to receive and file? Councilmember Rambo.
Yeah, this may not be an appropriate time, but it looks as though we're not honoring the 30-foot setback at the top and at the bottom. Is that accurate or not?
Well, from the perspective of the department, both the north and south boundaries are the side yard areas. And so those they are 30 now because of the property's non-urban resident district zoning. But for even a 3-lot plan, they need to rezone. And the advertisement is for the half-acre zoning. And that side yard setback is, I believe, 10 feet.
Okay, so it's compliant. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so no action on that then?
Nope, receipt and file.
Thank you. All right, can we get a motion to adjourn the work session made by Councilmember Farmer and seconded by Councilmember Marshall? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose or abstain. All right, the work session is adjourned. We'll proceed into our main meeting. So again, welcome everyone to our Monday, November 18th City Council meeting. And we will start with the roll call.
Mayor Garitano,
Present.
Councilmember Bros,
Here.
Councilmember Edens.
Here.
Councilmember Ottenberg,
Here.
Councilmember Dodwell,
Here.
Councilmember Marshall, Councilmember Jaxi,
Here.
Councilmember Hopper, Councilmember Galani, Councilmember Preston,
Here.
Councilmember Mabry, Councilmember Nyan,
Here.
Councilmember Farmer,
Here.
Councilmember McCutcheon,
Here.
Councilmember Rambo,
Here.
Councilmember Crayons,
Present.
Councilmember Albers.
Here.
Thank you. If you could join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with justice for all. Thank you. We'll proceed then. Approval of minutes will be part of the consent agenda, so we'll move into public participation. I do have just a couple of comments regarding public participation. We do have later on in tonight's meeting agenda, a public hearing related to Fisher and Frickel and a project called The Point at the Villages of Brightleaf. So there is a request by the petitioner to postpone that public hearing, or the council may choose to open it and continue it at the next meeting. However, if you are here to speak for that, I believe at this time there are no speakers, do note that you may still wish to speak. You can do so during the public comment, which is what we're moving into right now. So public comment, again, is an opportunity to speak on any matter before the city, and that's what we'll do now. So just a couple of items regarding public comment. If you wish to speak, make sure to fill out a speaker card and give it to our city clerk. She's seated to the left of the podium, and when your name is called, please approach the podium, state your name and ward. And to make sure that all who wish to speak have the opportunity to do so, there's a 5-minute time limit, and I will let you know as we approach that limit. If you have any questions for us, please mention that during your remarks. Identify the official you would like to respond. The official will make note of it, and at the conclusion of public participation, any official who chooses to respond will have 3 minutes to do so, as all questions directed to that official. The official may choose to respond to your questions after tonight's meeting. And lastly, please be respectful to others in making your remarks. Interrupting others, using profane or abusive language are prohibited. And we want to thank you in advance for following these guidelines. So we will begin public participation. Who is our first speaker?
The first speaker is Vitaly Tulayev.
Council members, my name is Vitaly Tulayev. I'm a resident of Tucson Valley. But we purchased a lot at Etherton, 2418 Etherton recently, and we petitioned that we are able to split it into 2 lots. Previously, the previous owner rezoned the lot. I believe it was 2022, rezoned the lot into R3 zoning, and we proposed that we split the lot into 2, yeah, that's our request.
Okay, thank you. We will proceed to the next part. I do believe if you would want to have that conversation with the Department of Planning, Director Vunich is right there. So, for your request, reach to the Department of Planning during the week, tomorrow, and have a conversation with them so that they can guide you in what you need to do.
Okay.
Oh, is it?
Oh, it is, yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay, we got it there. All right, thank you then. Okay, so all right, next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Chuck Pidcock.
Sorry, just additional, is it possible to request a second reading as well today?
Okay, we'll note that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, the speaker is not working. How about now?
That's better. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. My name is Chuck Pidcock. I'm a resident of Brightleaf. You've seen me before. When we moved in to the subdivision, E-shaped, triangular shaped area that is common ground has been designated all off and on different ways. Anyway, make a long story short, I hope the V it's in the shape of a V, and the east side of the V got a Fisher and Frischel installed French drain. We were promised the same thing for the west side. Still not happened. Joe knows about it. The F&F people have been there standing in my backyard with Joe. And it's been acknowledged a couple times that yes, they were going to fix it. But what's 3 years now since we were the last time, I think. I'm concerned about the escrow account against F&F after they get through with all these bioponds. I'm looking at $35,000 to $4,000 to fix the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 homes that didn't get it from Fisher and Frischel. Let's use their money. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other speakers? And if you are online and wish to speak, you can use the raise hand feature and we can call on you. All right, we'll move on then to mayor's announcements and appointments. I'd like to ask if we can just have a brief moment of silence to remember two members of our community who served our city and who most recently passed away. So the first would be Mayor John Wild, and then secondly, Councilmember John McCullough. So if you could just a moment, we have a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Again, we appreciate the service and extend our condolences to their family. Moving on, we have appointments in the consent agenda, so we will now proceed into public hearings. The first public hearing is the proposed 2025 municipal budget. So we'll open the public hearing. Have City Administrator Lee go ahead and speak, and then we'll open it up.
Thank you, Mayor. And 1 second, we'll get the presentation up here. Thank you, Mayor, City Council.
Hey, City Clerk, can you please read that?
Proposed 2025 municipal budget.
Okay, City Administrator.
All right, thank you, Mayor, City Council. This public hearing is following the budget focus work session that took place last month on October 28th. On top of that, we do have the introduction of the budget bill tonight. What was put on the website was been passed out. We have added a little bit of language just to make it a little bit more talkative and engagement and engage discussions, but we'll just go through a couple slides here. Just the timeline in general. In October, the Board of Public Safety, Planning and Parks Council Committee, Administration and Public Works Committee, and the Economic Development Committee reviewed their respective budgets, and that was passed on to that October 28th budget-focused meeting. From there, further feedback was incorporated, and now tonight we're sitting in the public hearing for the municipal budget with the first reading of the budget bill, either 2940 or 2940A. Tonight, but then the anticipation from the department side would be that the second reading of the budget bill would take place on December 9th, 2024. One thing the department wanted to call out before diving too much into the details was the difference between Bill 2940 and 2940A. 2940 reflects the budget that was presented back in on October 28th with no other changes. Originally in 2026, 2.5 million was budgeted for phase 2 of the Village Green. In between that time, between the 28th and the last Planning and Parks Council Committee meeting, the city had received notice that we had received the $575,000 grant for the all-inclusive playground. So the committee had requested that an option be provided to the council for full discussion and consideration to make a change where enough funding in the capital improvement sales tax fund would be given to cover the playground's construction. In this case tonight, we have two versions of Bill 2940. We got the first one and then obviously Bill number 2940A. What this effectively does is it's going to add $2 million. It results in a $2 million increase in budgeted expenditures in 2025. And also increases budgeted revenues by 575 for a net reduction in the ending fund balance of 1.425 million. Tonight, if the council were to wish to adopt the alternate version of Bill 2940, the department will go ahead and recommend a motion to have the 2940A read, and we can discuss that further when the ordinance comes up. But moving forward, just a quick financial summary. Total planned expenditures, and this is based off the numbers that are presented here are based off the budget that was presented on October 28th. This does not incorporate the numbers for the change if we were to do 2940A. Projected revenues are at $22,092,000. Our available fund balance we're anticipating at the beginning of the year at $34,387,000. With total funds available for 2025 at $56,479,000. Moving forward here. Just some budget considerations we wanted to call out, the department wanted to call out tonight. First and foremost, a heavy reliance on sales tax. This is something that luckily the city has been very blessed in the last couple of years. We've seen a gradual increase each year from our pool tax, and we'll get into that just a little bit about our revenue sources. But in general, the sales taxes, not only from the pool tax, but also from our capital improvement sales tax, we rely very heavily on these items. And at the end of the day, if the economy were to take a tumble or a bad turn, that would impact the amount of revenue coming in and would impact our projections that we're putting out today. So in that case, just keeping an eye on that, and obviously trying to be conservative when we're preparing the budget to ensure that usually we come in a little bit higher at the end of the year for revenue, but we like to be conservative because of these types of items, as in, you never know how the economy is going to be. On top of that, wanted to point out the video franchise fees. It's not too big of a item that is paying into our revenue, but it is important to note that the governor back in 2021 passed legislation with the Missouri State House that pretty much took that 5% gross receipts tax off video franchise fees. So really the charging cable companies for running their lines through right of way. It's decreasing by 0.5% each year. And then that will cap off at the lowest point at 2.5 in 2027. And it will remain at 2.5 of gross revenues then onward. Wanted to also point out back in 2021, that same legislation actually had the Wayfair legislation, but the city council and the city as a whole decided to postpone indefinitely the possibility of introducing an online use tax for our residents to vote on. In this case, we have to take that into consideration just with more purchases being done online today. We want to just make sure that money is accounted for, that shift may slowly start carving into our base. Also wanted to point out that telephone utility tax revenue has been going down for a couple years now. Pretty much the last 7 years, we've seen a pretty dramatic decline. That really does just show that, people are moving more to internet-based platforms. And then the gas utility tax, we do have, that's just a call out that's slightly different than our other gross receipt utility taxes, it's one of our major revenue drivers. The city council voted to lower that amount after there was a rate increase, so we did have to adjust it to 4.8286%. We'll go into this a little bit more, but just also noting that there are increased operating costs due to inflation and other needs and demand for the market right now. And that would include just material supplies, but really our service contracts that are the main driver of taking care of the assets that the city has here. And something that we're trying to keep in mind to make sure that we have enough to cover what we already have. And then last but not least, and this is on the agenda tonight too, and was discussed at the last meeting, but police services, that reduction from 36 to 34 officers, which does result in a slight cost savings for 25, but the police, just noting that the largest single line item is our police service contract at 40.6%. So we'll go on to major revenue sources, just a reminder for the public, but also for everyone here. The pool tax, we have other revenue sources, but these are the major drivers. First and foremost, we have the pool tax. It's a countywide tax based off population count of the entire 91 municipalities that participate. The public safety sales tax, the Prop P funds, there's a half cent countywide sales tax as well. About 62.5% of that tax is distributed to municipalities, and that's based on population as well too. And that helps go towards our police, but also helps go toward anything public safety wise. So public improvements that are going to make our roads, streets, anything along those lines safer. Utility gross receipt taxes. We discussed this a little bit about the gas tax being down a little bit, but it's 5% for electric, telephone, and water. We've seen telephone go down, but water and electric have maintained steady. Our capital improvement sales tax, the half-cent sales tax distributed according to population, but this is a separate pool than what we have for our standard 1% countywide sales tax, and it does have to be used directly towards capital improvements or paying down debt that would go towards capital improvements. The motor fuel tax, which is slightly increasing each year until I believe it is 2025, when actually it'll be at that 0.298, 29, about 30 cents per gallon that is added to help fund our roads and bridges. That money does have to be spent. on the same type of items like our capital improvement, but really roads and bridges. And then same with road and bridge tax, state mandated tax of about 10 cents per $100 of assessed valuation. And St. Louis County actually collects that and then funds that to the municipalities. But as you can see here, there are no direct property taxes done by the city. So these do stay pretty consistent. Main thing is a couple of them to call out: the pool tax, capital improvement sales tax, and then the motor fuel tax. Those items tend to fluctuate with the economy. So just wanted to point that out, that we usually are conservative with our revenue projections, just because you never know how the economy will turn. Top of that, just wanted to make a note on increased operating costs the city has been seeing here. Service contracts are probably the majority of it. We've seen, from grass cutting to asphalt patching, just the amount of cost that goes into it. It has increased over time. Same goes with maintaining this building. We're seeing it seems that we're seeing a slight increase for our contractors, but overall, there's a lot of demand for this type of work too. So it is something that we're keeping an eye on, and we're actually coming up with ways in order to try to get away from some of these hourly rates for some of the work that's consistently done and move towards a flat rate fee. Top of that, insurance costs. We've seen anywhere from 10 to 17% increase on different types of insurance the city pays, just to make sure that we stay safe and keep the taxpayers' dollar protected. Cyber liability is something that went up quite a bit, but general liability and property insurance have seen the most drastic increases, ranging one from 14 and then the other for 16% year over year. They typically are around 6%, 4 to 6%. So just wanted to call out that those insurance costs are adding up. Personnel costs, part of the 2025 budget that's been presented is planned for full staffed, being fully staffed. Whereas when you see the percentage breakdown is based off our estimated year end, which in 2024, we had time periods where we had those vacancies. So there is a small discrepancy there as well. And then event costs as well, going up just with the same with it. This can almost be tied right in with service contracts because their costs are going up too with inflation. Wanted to go over real quick some major projects in 2025. Wanted to point out internet expansion. Some residents here and also throughout the city may be very excited to hear that, but almost $2 million is budgeted in 2025 to round out and finish phase 2 of the internet access project. So good news on that front. Roadway improvements that are targeted in 2025 is the Route 100 J-turns project, the left turn lanes project is tied in there. The 109 BA roundabout project, which we look to go out to bid this fall, hopefully before the winter starts here. And then the Old State Road high friction surface treatment project that the city is partnering with St. Louis County on. On top of that, we have some watershed erosion projects, our stormwater management master plan, retrofits of some basins up in Cox Creek, hopefully getting as many as we can done, hopefully getting a matching partner in the state or other external partners, but also potentially some bank stabilization restoration projects. Year 2 of the deer management program with up to 355 deer we're looking to cull, and that will be part of the 2025 budget. Making some major repairs at City Hall. Currently, we'll be having some work actually done next week to repair a couple of the leaks, but then we have some HVAC work we want to do and some of the duct work. There's quite a few things we need to do. That being said, we'll be working just as hard as we did this year, next year. For Parks and Trails and the 2025 budget, some highlights. The hardcore playing area is currently laid out there, the Green Pines Park Connector Trail, and then the Old State Road Shared Use Path project as well. Lastly, and I wanted to call out that this is only included in Bill 2940A. It's included in 2026 as of right now in Bill 2940, but also the all-inclusive playground, should the council wish to amend and move forward with the 2940A, then that would be included as well. And then annual projects that we're doing that are pretty large, but don't necessarily get the amount of maybe credit they deserve is the tree plantings that we do, the ash tree replacement treatment that the city does each year, concrete street slab replacements, asphalt street resurfacing, crosswalk improvements, which we have a couple planned next year, and then trail resurfacing and repairs. Then last but not least, just wanted to call out some interfund transfers just because when you're looking at spreadsheets, they can be a little strange to to be able to call out, but I wanted to just call out that within the ARPA fund, we do look to bring that balance down to zero in 2025. Just because first and foremost, all the ARPA funds have to be spent by the end of 2026, but we do anticipate that the work should be done, and then payment be done in 2025. That number that is left over is $468,561. That's on top of the $6.75 million that has been put towards phase one of the internet access project. But over the course of those years, $476,000 had been gained from interest income from those ARPA funds. And the plan from the 2025 budget would be to transfer that money outside of the ARPA fund for better reporting to the federal government, and put that towards the capital improvement sales tax fund, which would still go towards internet and would be tied in with the $1,010,724 that has been set aside from a legal settlement from last year, to go towards that $1,955,285 for internet expansion in 2025. So good news on that front. Very fortunate for federal government's help in that regard. Then also wanted to call out the East Traffic Generation Assessment Fund. We did have these budgeted in 2024, but the project didn't get out the door, and best accounting practices would say that you'd want to make the transfer when you actually anticipate spending the funds. So in this case, we have $628,000 that would be transferred out of the East TGA, and that would go towards the capital improvement sales tax fund and be put directly towards Route 109 BA. That would help offset the cost, and then $25,000 to help offset the cost for potential easement acquisition on Main Street on the northern side. And then the West Traffic Generations Assessment Fund as well, $75,000 to further offset those acquisition costs. So in that case, the rest of the presentation, more than happy to go through it, but if we wanted to go to questions, it's more so just generalized numbers at that point. Thank you.
All right, thank you, City Administrator. Do we have any questions before we get into the public hearing? Councilmember Edens.
Well, it's more of a comment than a question, unless I just can't remember. I don't ever think we've had a PowerPoint presentation put together. I think it's just been general comments from previous city administrators and an executive summary attached to the budget. And I just want to say I appreciate this format a lot. It looks sharp. It's something that residents can peruse. I think a 17-slide presentation is manageable, whereas the average person doesn't have time to go through a 102-page document. That's our job, not the general public's, but they want the information accessible and digestible, and you've really done that. The other thing I would say is if you are meeting with HOAs, or if you're doing a ward presentation, you can reuse these slides too. This is a really great tool. So your efforts are noted and appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Otherwise, if there is no objection, we will open up the public hearing. The city clerk, do we have any speakers for the public hearing? All right, there are none. Is there anyone online that wishes to speak with regards to the public hearing? If you do, this would be the time to use the raise hand feature. Okay, seeing none, no speakers for the public hearing. I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Can I get a motion made by Councilmember Farmer, seconded by Councilmember Ottenberg? All those in favor, please say aye. Anyone oppose or abstain? The motion passes. The public hearing is now closed. We'll proceed to the next public hearing. So City Clerk, if you wish to, you can go ahead and read that. Director Vunich, speak to that.
A response to a communication from Christopher Deegans, Fisher and Frictal Homes, which is dated September 4th, 2024, regarding PZ 26, 27, and 28, 23, Fisher and Frictal Custom Homes, The Point at Brightleaf, R4 7,500 square foot residence district with a planned residential development overlay district, PRD, street addresses 17100, 17130, and 17150 Taylor Road and 2346 State Route 109, St. Louis County locator numbers 23V140245, 23V140218, 23V140162, and 23V140227, which seeks a modification to the existing site-specific governing ordinance for this residential development to increase the number of allowable single-family detached dwellings and associated lots from the approved number of 30 to 34 in total The city council, as part of its final action regarding this matter, reduced the number of allowable lots from that recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. The petitioner is now seeking this increase in the lot totals based upon proposed modifications to the previous design components relating to them.
Director Vunich.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, as part of tonight's packet, you received a letter from Mike Doster, the attorney representing Fisher Frickel, respectfully requesting a postponement of this matter to the next meeting. The rationale for the postponement is that a meeting was held amongst the ward representatives, Ward 5, the city administrator, and the Department of Planning to discuss potential modifications to further improve the design of the site. That work has yet to be completed, and Fisher Frickel would like to complete that work before the public hearing is closed. Therefore, tonight there is a request for a motion to postpone this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Vunich. City Clerk, do we have any speakers for the public hearing tonight? All right, seeing that there are no speakers or any speakers online, please use the raise hand feature. Seeing that there are no speakers, as you heard, there is a request to postpone the public hearing. So we can get that. Council member McCutcheon.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, to the December meeting, is there a second? Councilmember Marshall? Seeing no other hands up, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? If the motion passes, that public hearing will be postponed the next month. That concludes the public hearings. We'll move on to legislation under unfinished business. We have Bill 2933. Now, this one here was read 2 times already. So according to our city code, a third reading is not required. So it is before the council, but third reading and concerns all wards. Director Vunich, do you have anything to add to the information that's been provided?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The bill before you tonight relates to the rental reoccupancy program of non-owner occupied units. Those units would include single-family detached dwellings and multiple family dwellings. As the city council members may recall, at the last meeting when the bill was prepared for final passage, the department noted that conversations between it and the city attorney have been delayed due to my absence. The meeting was held between Ms. Ripito, our assistant director of the department, Mr. Young, and myself, including Mr. Lee, our city administrator, and we were able to make great strides in the modifications that were necessary to make the city attorney feel that it was an acceptable approach. The modifications were provided to the department recently, and those modifications haven't had the thorough review that the department had hoped. And again, given that the city council is seeing them for the first time as well, the department would respectfully request a postponement of this particular bill to the December 9th meeting, whereas then all parties will have ample time to review the content of the proposed bill and act upon it for final passage then. If there are any questions, certainly Mr. Lee, our city administrator, Mr. Young, our city attorney, or the department are available. Thank you.
Great. Bill 2933 is on the floor. So do you have any questions, comments regarding Bill 2933? All right, so at this point then, yeah, we need a motion to postpone then. So motion, Councilmember Ottenberg. Is there a second? Councilmember Nyan. So we have a motion on the floor to postpone. Any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oppose or abstain. That motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to new business, we have several items here. So I'm going to ask again for, see if we can read these en masse for the sake of efficiency here. So we have bills 2930. Given the size of 2940, I'm going to ask that we do that one separately on its own. The same goes for 2941. So en masse, I would say 2930, 2942, 2943, 2944, and 2946. City Administrator, do you have?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make one quick note for 2930. We had originally wanted to postpone it to this meeting to see if they would come back, Spectrum would come back to want to engage with the walkout, but the goal is still to have, and it should be this week, actually, that we should have some type of a proposal in hand that will be encompassing of this plus the actual construction work. So tonight, if the council would like to, and as long as the city attorney has no issue, postpone indefinitely. I do not see this coming back for this specific piece. It would be incorporated into the entirety of the overarching agreement.
That's fine, no objection. Okay, so we will not read that one then. So thank you. So again, just to recap, if we can read in mass, bills 2942, 2943, 2944, and 2946, and then we'll come back to the other bills. If there's no objection, is there a motion for a reading of these bills? Made by Councilmember Galani, seconded by Councilmember Kranz. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone oppose or abstain? All right, Ms. Eldridge, please read the bills.
Bill number 2942, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, amending ordinance number 244 by modifying screening requirements of Plat 1 of the Fairhaven subdivision, first reading. Bill number 2943, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, approving a boundary adjustment plat between two lots of record that are part of the southwest quarter of section 24 and the northwest quarter of the southeast quarter of the same, township 45 north, range 3 east, located at the intersection of Shepherd Hollow Road and Shepherd Ridge Spur Road, and to be hereafter known as boundary adjustment plat of 1315 Shepherd Hollow Road and parcel 2 of 1401 Shepherd Ridge Spur Road, first reading. Bill number 2944, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, approving a lot split plat for the division of a 1/2 acre tract of land into two lots that are part of the southwest quarter of section 1, township 44 north, range 3 east, located on the east side of Etherton Road, north of Crestview Drive, and to be hereafter known as 2418 Etherton Road lot split, first reading. Bill number 2946, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the purchase of up to 500 tons of enhanced de-icer from Central Salt LLC for winter snow removal and de-icing operations, first reading.
All right, Director Vunich, do you have anything that you wish to add pertaining to the bills?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and members of City Council, just as a reminder, the City Council authorized the preparation of Bill 2942, which would modify the fencing requirement in association with the Fairhaven subdivision along its frontage on Old State Road. In terms of the other two bills, the only item I would mention is that Bill 2944, the lot split plat, the owner of property respectfully requested a second reading, and the department offers no objections.
Okay.
If there are any questions or comments, the department would certainly try to answer them at this time.
Thank you for that. Do we have any questions or comments? Councilmember Mabry. For which bills? All of them, you mean, or typically, we try to follow the process of allowing the public the time to comment if there is something that is of concern or question, which the second reading at a subsequent meeting would allow for that. So we would certainly, if there's a request and there's no objection from the department, we can entertain that. Or if it's something that specific to City Hall, for example, something that we need to address immediately, life and safety. Yep. All right, thank you. Councilmember Galani. Yep. Okay, so we have all of those. So these bills, except for the ones that we're going to do a second reading, will be on the agenda for the next meeting. So being that we did get a request for 2944 to do a second reading, I would also ask the city administrator mentioned Bill 2946, which is the purchase of salt. Given that we are in November, it would make sense we get that second reading in so they can move forward. Anything else that requires a second reading?
No, other than that, Bill 2946, as you mentioned, Mayor, and then 2944. But other than that, everything else can do one.
Okay, so can we get a motion for the second reading of the bills of 2944 and 2946? Made by Councilmember Edens and seconded by Councilmember Dodwell. Then a roll call. No, that's no. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed or abstain? Right, City Clerk, please read these bills for second reading.
Bill number 2944, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri approving a lot split plat for the division of a 1/2 acre tract of land into 2 lots that are part of the southwest quarter of section 1, Township 44 North, Range 3 East, located on the east side of Etherton Road, north of Crestview Drive, and to be hereafter known as 2418 Etherton Road Lot Split, second reading. Bill number 2946, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri authorizing the purchase of up to 500 tons of enhanced de-icer from Central Salt LLC for winter snow removal and de-icing operations, second reading.
Any questions or comments related to bills 2944 and 2946?
Mr. Mayor,
We do have Councilmember Marshall and then who else? Oh, Director Vunich.
I apologize. I forgot to mention something. Mr. Newberry was nice enough to show the plat and the 2 lots. One of the key elements that came out of the Planning and Zoning Commission discussion of the rezoning of the property was ensuring that the garages met the requirements of the town center plan. And so on lot 1, the garage is set back the full 15 feet as set forth in the design, neighborhood design guideline, neighborhood design standards. And on lot 2, a side entry garage is proposed. So the owner of the property and the developer of the 2 homes did a very nice job.
Thank you. All right, any questions, Councilmember Marshall?
So, Mr. Vunich, just that little tiny plat that ends up coming back down, is that, I guess that falls over to the other property, but it's kind of weird because it's like the point of nothing.
This lot and many of the others on the north side of Crestview Drive were part of the McBride Homes proposal. And so when that proposal was dropped by the company, some of the lots became available. And so this is one that's gone through the process to this point. But yes, there's going to be, I think, some bits and pieces coming along that used to be part of that larger proposal over
So the actual
coming years.
easement onto Etherington would be kind of taking into that piece of property you couldn't build on anyway.
Yes, and as part of any rezoning and certainly subdivision plat, you can see that gray area along this frontage, that's dedication to Etherton Road for public purposes. So as we move forward with improving Etherton Road, we have additional right of way now.
All right, see no other hands up. Ms. Eldridge, please call the roll for final passage.
Councilmember Bros.
Yes.
Councilmember Edens.
Yes.
Councilmember Oddberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Dodwell.
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall.
Yes.
Councilmember Jaxi.
Yes.
Councilmember Galani.
Yes.
Councilmember Preston.
Yes.
Councilmember Mabry.
Yes.
Councilmember Nyan.
Yes.
Councilmember Farmer.
Yes.
Councilmember McCutcheon.
Yes.
Councilmember Rambo.
Yes.
Councilmember Crans.
Yes.
Councilmember Albers.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll proceed with the first reading of the remaining bills. Bill 2940 is before the council and concerns all wards. Is there a motion for the first reading of the bills? And wait just a moment, City Administrator?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just want to make a quick note that under this this bill, there's two versions. So 2940 and then 2940A. So the department, before a first reading takes place, wanted to make sure to call this difference out. One being 2940 is exactly what was presented at the last city council meeting on the work session on the 28th. And then bill 2940A, that would be the addition of $2 million in 2025 for the construction of the Village Green Playground, and then obviously accepting that $575,000 for the grant. Thank you.
Okay, so it'll be Bill 2940A.
Yeah, if you want to have the if the council wishes to accept the grant and build the playground in 2025.
Okay, Councilmember Ottenberg.
Yes, I would like to make a motion for the to proceed with Bill 2940A.
Okay. So we have to wait, according to the city attorney, we'll have to wait till after the second.
Or it's never good.
Yeah,
So that's okay.
yeah.
We can't, I'm sorry. Can't proceed with that.
Okay, so we're gonna get a motion that we're gonna see if that passes for 2940A. If that passes, then we'll have the city clerk do the first reading of that one. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So motion made by Councilmember Ottenberg for 2940A. Is there? And again, if it passes, then we'll do a first reading.
Yeah.
This is just to determine if we have the council support to do 2940A. So we have a motion made by Councilmember Ottenberg. Is there a second made by Councilmember Preston? Any discussion on 2940A? It's Councilmember Marshall.
Yeah, where's the money coming from? Pulling things from 3 or 4 years down the road and moving them to.
No, so in this case, the money is coming from technically the capital improvement plan in 2026. So 2.5 million was budgeted for Village Green Phase 2, a more all-encompassing project in 2026. What this does is it takes 2 million and moves it to 2025. So then if you look at the attachment of 2940A, that line on 2026 would actually show a reduction of 2 million. So the capital improvement fund reduces in 26, but increases in 25. So it's almost like the city's borrowing from its future self.
Thank you. So we had a question. Any other questions? All right, all those in favor of the motion, if we're going to proceed with 2940A, please say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone that opposes or abstains? Right, the motion passes. So we'll move forward with the first reading of Bill 2940A before the council concerning all wards. And now we need a motion for the first reading of that bill. Made by Councilmember Ottenberg, seconded by Councilmember Dodwell. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or any abstain? All right, Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2940A.
Bill number 2940A, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, adopting the municipal budget and capital improvement program for the city of Wildwood for fiscal year 2025, first reading.
Thank you. Director Vunich, anything else that you wish to add? Otherwise, that bill then be on the agenda for the next meeting. Right now, we will move on to Bill 2941 before the council for first reading and concerns all wards. Is there a motion for first reading of Bill 2941? Made by Councilmember Rambo, seconded by Councilmember McCutcheon. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? All right, Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2941.
Bill number 2941, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute an amendment to the police service agreement with St. Louis County, Missouri, and approving the 2025 police service cost sheet as an addendum to the police service agreement, first reading.
City Administrator Lee, do you have anything else that you wish to add to the information? Right.
No other comments. This doesn't need 2 readings tonight, but more so just pointing out that this is approving both the cost sheet that was presented tonight and also at the meeting on the 28th. And it does approve also for the mayor to negotiate and execute that amendment to the agreement that would reduce the number of police officers by 2. Thank you.
And again, for clarity, as mentioned, just to restate that,
Mhm.
the reduction does not change the amount or number of officers that are working on the ship.
That's correct. No change in beats, and nothing along those lines. This is all resulting from going from the 8 to 12-hour shift and is recommended strongly from the St. Louis County Department, St. Louis Police Department. Sorry.
Thank you for that. All right, so that will be on the agenda for the next meeting. So we have before us then Bill 2945 for first reading concern all wards. Is there a motion for the first reading of Bill 2945? Made by Councilmember Farmer and seconded by Councilmember Nye. Ms. Eldridge, please read Bill 2945. Oh, all those, yes, we do have to, jumping ahead. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? All right, that passes. Ms. Eldridge, go ahead, please read Bill 2945.
Bill number 2945, an ordinance of the city of Wildwood, Missouri, authorizing the mayor to negotiate and execute public roads, rights of way, and parks maintenance agreements with certain contractors. First reading.
Thank you. Director Brown, do you have anything else you wish to add?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I have nothing additional to add, but this is for our annual right-of-way maintenance contractors to do work throughout the city for next year.
Anyone have any questions for Director Brown? All right, seeing none, then that bill will be back on the agenda at our next meeting. All right, that concludes.
Mayor
these bill-
Garitano, were we supposed to take action on 2930?
Oh, thank you. Yes, city attorney did advise just to follow proper procedure. If we can get a motion to postpone indefinitely Bill 2930. Councilmember Preston and seconded by Councilmember Albers. That motion to postpone indefinitely. All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 You abstain? The motion passes. That then concludes all new business.
I just have a quick question, and I mean this as I would like you to teach me, not in an argumentative way. Can you just explain why we went straight to and I agree with it, but the bill 2940A and we read it as an amendment, and then we went back and read 2940, because I thought we had to have the first bill read on the floor and before we had an amendment, and I just don't understand the process I just went through.
Well, it's a little bit different. First reading a bill and amending.
Okay, so had we read it first and then this came up later? Okay, because my other question was, if we wanted to make a line item amendment, that is only appropriate at the second reading and not now, because this amendment is was essentially a parallel bill. Okay, gotcha.
All right, thank you. Moving on then forward. We do not have any first readings from hearings with favorable city recommendation, and resolutions are part of the consent agenda. So looking at the consent agenda, is there objects with the consent agenda as presented, or do you wish to remove any item on the consent agenda? Seeing none, then can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Made by Councilmember Farmer, seconded by Councilmember Galani. Any questions on the consent agenda? Motion that's on the floor. All right, seeing none, then all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
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 Anyone oppose or abstain?
Abstain.
One abstention? All right, then that passes, and we'll move on to resolutions. So resolutions, we have oh. Sorry about that. Yeah, thank you. All right, miscellaneous. Anything under miscellaneous? If not, and I'll say just a couple of comments here. Want to thank the city staff and all the attendees, and we had several council members. We had our first Salute to Veterans event here at City Hall, and I feel it was a great success. The veterans that attended all provided great feedback, what I heard in talking with folks. So I want to thank really for the first attempt at doing that, and looking forward to it next year. It's a great way for us to recognize our veterans, and already taken some steps with our Hometown Heroes banners, which you hopefully have seen on Manchester Road. And so with this event, that was also another plus. We do have the holiday tree lighting on December 7th. So excited and looking forward to that. I hear Tom has been looking for a tree. So anyway, that was coming up, so we look forward to that. And then the only other item I do want to wish is for everyone here and those that are watching, a happy Thanksgiving, and I hope you get to enjoy the time with your family. So those are my comments. Councilmember Edens.
Just a reminder if, for everybody else, or if you're new to council and this is the first time you're hearing this, we started a tradition to wear ugly holiday sweaters at the December council meeting. Appropriate, but tacky is encouraged. So just consider your festive garb and bring your spirit. So public is welcome to participate.
Thank you for that. All right, seeing none, then can we get a motion to adjourn? Made by Councilmember Ottenberg and seconded by Councilmember Dodwell. Motion's non-debatable. So all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those who abstain. All right, the motion. Thank you.